And good afternoon, everybody. This is Arch. It's time for the show. Let's be reasonable. Folks, look, I know it's been about a month and a half since my last video. I got to tell you, this is my busy season, so please forgive me. I know a lot has happened. We've seen Harris's momentum climb in the spread. She was up as much as 2.3%, still within the margin of error. We saw it come back down. Now we're looking at a spread of Trump lead zero point 0.1. Got to tell you. So, I mean, I know I've missed a lot and missed telling you a lot, telling you the direction in which this story is headed. However, I'm here today, taking a little bit of time out of my day on a Sunday afternoon in order to tell you my thoughts on the election come this coming Tuesday. Now, we probably won't know the winner of the election until really wee hours of the morning to on Wednesday, probably going into Thursday. And of course, from that point, we will know about any of the challenges, and there will be the issues with regard to calls about cheating in Pennsylvania. There will be calls about cheating in Wisconsin. There will be calls of cheating in Michigan. In all the battleground states, expect Trump cases to move forward in order to kind of gum up the election works. So now, all that being said, look, it's a close race. We know at this point, this all comes down to blocking and tackling and a ground game. Who can get their voters out, right? And Democrats have a well-oiled machine when it comes to the ground game versus the Trump team. They really farmed out the ground game to red states, right? So it's going to be up to individual red states in order to kind of motivate Republican voters in order to come out for their candidate, Donald Trump. So, all that being said, folks, look, um, you got to turn your attention to some key factors that are still out here. And I would say some negative things that probably follow or has followed Donald Trump, right? So when you look at how negative uh, or I shouldn't say negative, how unpopular Donald Trump is, that is a story that will play out during this election cycle, right? Um, we have to look at the permission slip structure that has been given to Republicans to vote for a Democrat. Now, I've been following elections for quite some time, since probably 11, 12 years old. That doesn't happen. I'm 53 years old. Doesn't happen, but we see this now, right? And this is the second time. See, the first time it happened was with the Never Trumpers, where uh, the Lincoln Project guys were openly saying you need to vote for Biden in 2020. This is the second time around. It's a little bit different course, right? Because now we're picking at rank and file Republicans and saying to them, look, there's a reason why you need to vote for the other side. And, don't cast your ballot for any of the third party pieces. Strictly vote for the Democratic candidate. So definitely new system, but we need to be able to measure and kind of determine how big of a universe is that, right? And in order to do that, you have to start by looking at the structure of the Republican Party. And you and I went through this before, the snapshot of the coalition that makes up the Republican vote. And it's broken down into five factions. There's the Faith and Flag conservative group. These are your evangelical Christians. You got the committed conservatives. These are our neocons. These are the most educated block of this particular group of Republicans. You have the populist wing of the party made up of, really hate to say it this way, but low education individuals. This is the group that traffics in a lot of conspiracy and the rest. The ambivalent right makes up your libertarian wing of the Republican Party. These people are closer to really laissez-faire, hands off everything. That being issues related to the economy and to the social fabric that makes up the different classes of people within the United States. And then, of course, you have the stressed out Republicans. Those are your rhinos, really. These are people who live in your purple districts who wound up getting elected, but they don't sound like the traditional conservatives, right? That's because they come from these blue districts. Anyway, when you look at the percentages, 15% for the rhinos, 18% of the libertarian wing, 23% of the populist wing of the party, the committed conservatives, 15%, the faith and flag group, evangelicals, 23%. So we can say that the evangelicals and the populist group, they are pretty much probably running the show in the Republican Party. And then, of course, the neocons are out of favor, right? The ambivalent or the libertarians, still a strong contingent within the Republican Party. Are they willing to vote against the party? I don't know. But I see the committed conservatives. When you look at the committed conservatives ring, this is the Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, the neocon structure of the party that pretty much ran the supply side economic argument since the 1980s up until 2016, right? So we know that 15% swath is on the table with the permission slip in order to look at Democrats for the 2024 election, and in particular, Kamala Harris. All right, so when you break it down, when you look at the 43, 43, 46%, that's Donald Trump's magic number. 46 to about 48% is the ceiling, really. 46 to 47% is the ceiling for Donald Trump, or has been. We'll see exactly where that turns out when it comes to the election. But the question on the floor is, what happens with the rhinos, the libertarians, and with the neocons, the committed conservatives? How big is this block of people? And when we look at, this is from USA Facts. When we start looking at how big is the Republican Party, they're going to tell you it's about 36 million voters that are registered Republican. I'm going to tell you that I think it's bigger than that. They do point out the fact that they don't have numbers from Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and North Dakota. I'm going to tell you, Indiana, you could look at the numbers, and we can look at them in just a second. But Indiana, there's about 6.9 million people. And I'd say about a good 3/4 of them are either libertarian or Republican. Okay, so of the 6.9, let's just say about 4.5 to maybe 5 million are Republican. So that's 5 million, 36. I'd say Arkansas, and I'm going to say conservatively, 36 million registered Republicans. When you throw in Indiana, Ohio, Missouri, Arkansas, and North Dakota, you probably arrive at another, let's just call it roughly around 55 million people. Okay, and I'll be glad. Anybody who wants to challenge those numbers, I will accept that challenge. And if I happen to be on the low side, okay, I will definitely prove it, point it out to me, and I'll definitely side with you, because I'm just kind of ballparking these numbers. So we're saying 50 million to about, let's just go on the top side and say 60 million. Okay, 60 million registered Republicans. Okay, and we could look at the number of registered Democrats, but that's not really important here. I will say, when it comes to that 60 million people of Republicans, what we got to ask is, of the 60 million, when we look at our factions, where can we put them, right? And 60 million, so we're going to say roughly about 30 million make up the faith and flag and populist wing, right? And then we're spreading another 30 million between the committed conservatives, the libertarians, and the rhinos. And I would have to, I'm going to break it evenly, and 10 million among the stressed. That would be my rhino Republicans. So even if we break it into thirds, right, then we're seeing this structure through here. not counting the stressed out nor the ambivalent, of the committed conservative, if there's 10 million votes in there that could possibly sway Republicans into voting for a Democratic candidate, because that's the permission slip structure. Now, I'm not going to give you all the details of how I arrived at the numbers, but I'll just tell you what the numbers look like to me, and then we can argue about it, right? So I want to tell you, per state, that probably works out to, in red states in particular, that probably works out to somewhere like 200,000 votes per state. But I think it's about 26 states that are quote unquote red states. So, so let's just say 200,000 times 26 states. That's about 5.2 million people. All right. That's our universe across all of these red states. Now, I get to 200,000 by looking at the Republican state of Arizona from 2018 to 2016 and the spread between registered Democrats and registered Republicans. And you can see that 2000 number kind of show up, be anywhere between 180 to about 200,000 votes. Why do I pick on Arizona? I pick Arizona because this is the one state. Remember that, John McCain was not a friend of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is on record saying stuff like he likes his POWs and war heroes who weren't captured. Right. So when you look at that and look at the vote counts in Arizona in 2016, you can tell there was already a contingency of voters who were not going to vote for Donald Trump. That number, again, represented about 200,000 people. I look at that number and then look at the permission slip group. And I ask myself a question. Are there roughly 200,000 voters additional of the never Trumpers and permission slip Republicans? Is there another 200,000 people in that permission slip Republican group that are out there that could possibly pull and turn an election for Kamala Harris? And to which, I say, I don't think, but I'm not sure. Okay, because if you think of who are the never Trumpers, they probably come out of the committed group. Okay, and they probably come out of the stressed sideliners, the rhinos. Okay, between these two, probably 20 million votes out there. Okay, can you find states that you could get an additional 200,000 Republicans in red states to flip and go to Kamala Harris? I think it's possible. And here's the reason why I think it's possible. I look at the news story out today from the Washington, the Wall Street Journal, and they're talking about Iowa. Okay, and they're looking at Harris and Sulzer. I think that's her name. Tell anybody, give me your name, and trust me, I will butcher your name, but I do believe her name is Ann Sulzer. Yes, Ann Sulzer. There it is. Ann is a renowned pollster for the Des Moines Register in Iowa, and she called the race for Donald Trump before the close of 2016, called it again for Donald Trump in Iowa in 2020. So when she says Harris is +3 2 days before the election, you have to pay attention to that and ask yourself, what is it that she's seeing? Okay. Now, let's assume, and we're assuming, because assumptions can go either way, but let's assume that Ann is correct when she does her numbers. What does roughly 3% amount to? Okay. All right. I mean, it's still within the margin of error. But let's look at something. And I just want to take a little bit of time to look at this, and I don't want to look too long. But let's look at 2020, for example. And if we look at 2000, no, that's 2018. Let's look at 2020. If we look at 2020 and we look at Iowa, Biden got 759,000 votes. Trump got 897,000 votes, right? So there's a spread there of about 8%. 8.2% is the spread between Biden and Trump. She said +3. Okay. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that any state where the spread is probably 10% or less is probably in play and probably takes the battleground, okay, from the states that we become familiar with, right? The familiar names that we are familiar with, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. We threw in North Carolina as a toss-up, right? You throw in Nevada and Arizona. These are your battlegrounds, and call it Georgia, right? But for Republican red states with the permission slip from Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney and some 100 or so other Republicans who have now come out and told you, don't vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a fascist, to which I will say, yes, he does exhibit some fascist tendencies, right? Everything seems to be about him. And you see the memes. The memes today are just as bad as the full-length photos of Benito Mussolini during the 1920s and 30s, right? Where he's out there with the bare chest and he's working in the field and doing all these things. The memes today of Donald Trump looking all muscular and all the rest of it look just like those fascist photos back during the 1920s and 1930s of Benito Mussolini and also Joseph Stalin and the rest of these fascist communist dictators. Looks like two sides of the aisle, but guess what? The personalities exhibit certain tendencies. Anyway, won't go too far with that. But anyway, my point is this. Those are our battlegrounds, right? But any state, red state that is 10 percentage points or less also becomes a secondary battleground state. And for this, you have to look at Alaska at 10.06. You have to then say Iowa at 8.2, Ohio at 8.03. Look at Maine, the second, at 7.44. Look at Texas at 5.58, and then Florida at 3.36. Also, North Carolina at 1.35. We're already looking at North Carolina. But with the permission slip and with the evidence of knowing that the Never Trumpers probably represent about 200,000 votes per red state, if you look at that number, and if we expand the Never Trumper universe plus the permission slip Republicans, expanded from 2 to 4 on the outside, we know it's got to be greater than 200,000, right? So if you can get somewhere between 300,000 votes to go from the red column to the blue column, the secondary state show a pattern where you could get a surprise sometime during the middle of the night. And as the polls close, we will see it early. It could be North Carolina. It could be Florida. It could be Ohio, right? And then we're going to sit around and wait for Texas to come in, right? Look for Iowa to come in. The main second, we'll know what that number looks like. And the last one to come in will be Alaska. All of these states require that you pay close attention to them because there could be activity there that could make the race even tighter, or enough to give Kamala Harris a victory. So take a look at those states. I'm here to tell you, I'll give you my call. I'm ready to call the race. And again, look, I'll be the first to tell you. I talk about being reasonable, and I try. I really try to be reasonable. However, there are just things that I see with Republicans that I got to tell you, this isn't the Republican Party that I grew up knowing. It isn't. They've wandered off of the reservation when it comes to supply side economics. They have no idea of what the economic policy they really favor. They just know that whatever Democrats say, they want the opposite, right? So I'm giving you my number. Let me get a pen out here. Here's my race call. All right, we've come to the end of the show, and I'm here to give you my number. This is what I think the race will end. This is what will the count be at the end of the voting cycle. We know that we won't get votes in a completed look at probably Pennsylvania until the wee hours of the morning. The same could be true for Wisconsin, Nevada. They're going to be late coming in. But I think this is the number, 50.2 to 47.1. It will be won in the trenches, in the battleground states. And I think that there's probably, of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sub-battleground states that I mentioned, there's a victory in there for Harris. I don't know if it'll be 1 or 2. It could be as many, I believe, as many as 1, 2, 3, could be as many as 4. Okay. You could get, if you get North Carolina, I think that you will probably get Florida. If you get North Carolina and Florida, I think you may possibly get Texas. That's a big stretch. Okay. Now, I got to throw Ohio in there because I got to think the thing with Springfield does something to the Republican psyche. You had a Republican governor telling the president, or the ex-president and the vice president nominee, right, that stop talking about this stuff in Springfield. I believe Ohio could be in play. It could be. But I do believe North Carolina is in play. Texas may be in play. Florida is in play. So we shall see. But that's my number, 50.02 to Trump, 47.1. Harris with the victory at the end of the campaign. Now, we do know that there will be challenges along the way when it comes to vote counts and allegations about cheating and the rest. Look forward to it, but that's my number. I'm sticking to it. We'll see exactly where all this lands. But give me your thoughts. Give me your number. Where do you think this is going to land? Does Harris end up pulling this out? Why do I say Harris? It represents everything that I checked off earlier. Harris is a change agent. Okay? People in America like change. They've seen the Trump show before. They don't want that. They want change. They didn't vote for the woman versus the businessman in 2016. This time, I believe they will vote for the woman. America likes change, whether it be Abraham Lincoln, whether it be Teddy Roosevelt, whether it's FDR, JFK, Ronald Reagan, W, Obama. They like change, people. So when I think about change being the overriding factor, sure, I could say, yeah, it's about the economy, stupid. Yeah, it is. The economy ranks up there pretty high. The border security ranks up there pretty high. But nothing ranks higher than change. So that's my call for 2024. Harris, 50.2. Trump, 47.1. Let's see where all this lands. Hey, folks, hope you enjoy the show. Look forward to doing more of these into the future. Thanks for your time and enjoy your election day festivities, whatever they may be. Have a good time.